What's the fastest way to get 10% body fat? I've tried starving myself, fasted cardio, no carbs, and still ended up having love handles. I knew there was something I had to change, but what I actually found was the complete opposite of what everybody else tells you. This new way got me to 10% body fat, not only easier than I ever have, but also helped me build a lot more muscle along the way, which I had never experienced. All whilst having more energy, not feeling burnt out, and being able to actually sustain it after I finished the diet. I'm going to share with you the strategy, the biggest mistakes, and the exact plan of action that I actually took myself on my most recent cut, and the exact changes that I took to get my physique to another level, and the mindset changes that actually came along with that. If you're watching this video, chances are you're probably like me. The thought of actually having a six-pack once, never mind all year round, seemed like it was only for the lucky ones, or at least the select lucky few that had these elite level genetics that I just didn't have. This was me when I was 16 years old, built like a fiddler's elbow. Believe it or not, I was training 2 years at this point, and I was literally just trying to get abs. But instead, I won the gym lottery and got 2 for the price of 1. I got skinny fat, both at the same time. Fast forward to 2025, and this is where I'm at after the easiest diet I've ever followed in my life. And not only that, I was able to build a little bit of muscle along the way. And for the first time in my life, it felt simple. So let's go over the traditional approach that most of you guys are probably familiar with. First, we're told that you need to eat in a calorie deficit and then burn more calories through exercise. And if you can, do both of those at the same time. But usually what that leads to is often a lot of fatigue, a lot of hunger, a lot of cravings, a lot of demotivation after a couple of weeks, and then you fall off the bandwagon and never get that end result. This usually builds in really unsustainable habits, which I've experienced myself. And what happens off the back of that is that you're not able to preserve the muscle that you've spent building. So you end up looking skinnier and your metabolism then slows down, and that's how you look skinny fat. Also, here's a crucial fact that not a lot of guys think about. The leaner that you get, the harder it is to actually drop that body fat. When you're holding a lot of body fat, your body is a lot more responsive to calorie cuts and energy deficits through exercise. So basically, you'll see faster results. But as you approach that 10% mark, your body fights harder and harder to retain that body fat because it just doesn't want to lose it. So a guy at 25% body fat getting to 15, dropping 10% will find it easier than another guy at 20% trying to get down to 10. It's completely relative to where you're at. Unfortunately, and I found this out the hard way, fat loss is not linear. And this is because of your body's adaptive thermogenesis. But here's the key takeaway. As you get leaner and more active, your body's metabolic rate slows down and lowers its resting metabolic rate, which means that you're burning less calories at rest and your metabolism's effectively slowing down. This is our body's way of preserving energy to essentially prevent us from starving. And that's why a one-size-fits-all crash diet never works long-term for anybody. So Connor, what's the smart way to get 10% body fat then? So what I found with not only my own experience anecdotally, but also coaching hundreds of other guys do the same thing, and a couple of extra scientific studies that we're going to talk about in this video, what usually works best is actually raising your calories up to maintenance level to begin with, not dropping them straight away. Now, this is going to be applicable for most guys. If you're already serious into your training and consistent with everything, or you're a competitive bodybuilder, then you're not going to be able to do a recomposition, but chances are you're probably not watching this video anyway to begin with. The second part you do is utilize the food that you're now consuming to bring your training intensity up so that you can build more muscle. And as you build that muscle, you're actually increasing your own metabolism at the same time, which is going to do so much of that heavy lifting for the fat loss for you. And the third piece of the puzzle that I find works great is using a low intensity, steady state form of cardio, anywhere between 120 and 140 BPM with your heart rate, but only use this sparingly when needed, and then focus on increasing your net expenditure daily through adding in steps. The best way to get to 10% body fat is actually to set it up in the slowest way possible so that you're more likely to get to the end result and you can end it with more muscle mass. That's the actual paradox here. So Connor, what does this all mean? When I dropped down to 9.7% body fat in my last shoot, I thought it would be completely about willpower, but it was actually just about eliminating decision fatigue. The calories that I was eating, cardio I was doing, the steps I was doing, all of the things that I always overthought about, this time around I just kept it really straightforward and consistent throughout. I made changes little and often so that I was able to actually stick to it long term and it didn't feel overwhelming. This way I was able to go through my entire dieting process, starting off at 3,000 calories and over a 5-month period only dropping down to 2,000. And this was through only 4 or 5 changes and around once a month. The general rule of thumb here is I was looking to lose around 0.5 to 1% of my total body weight every single week. But if I didn't, I wasn't too stressed or get caught up about it. And I think that's exactly why I was able to get the end result and find it so easy, because there was literally no pressure. To help show you what this means a little bit more, I want to reference a 2004 study and a 2014 study. Both of these had participants track their fat loss over a 12 to 14 week period from a both competitive bodybuilder standpoint and a general population standpoint, so we get both ends of the spectrum. Eric Helms and his team followed a natural bodybuilder over a 12-week cut on the run up to him getting stage lean. Over those 12 weeks, he lost roughly 15 pounds at a rate of around 1 pound per week. And this was all whilst keeping his training intensity up and his protein intake right up there with it. Attaboy. But the most interesting part of the study, he preserved nearly all of his muscle mass, which is the key here. Like, imagine steadily losing fat loss and retaining all your muscle. You would look unbelievable. On the other side of this, Astrup and colleagues actually studied 2 groups of people. So they studied regular guys who tried to lose body fat or weight rapidly, and another group that tried to do it more conservatively and slowly. The rapid fat loss group lost around 20 pounds on average, but quickly put on all of the body fat thereafter, whereas the group that went a little bit slower lost 12 pounds on average over the exact same 12-week period, but kept nearly all of their muscle mass and were able to keep the weight off thereafter. So here's the big takeaway. Whether you're a big bodybuilder or you're literally just a regular guy wanting to look better for the summer, the science is very, very clear. Losing fat slowly will get you to the outcome that you want, which is leaner, bigger, and actually retaining that shape, which keeps your metabolism higher and means that you can diet on more food. Whereas when you try to do it rapidly, you're more likely to, yes, lose more weight, but that weight also consists of muscle mass that you've lost, and you're less likely to sustain the result by the end of it. I know which one I would rather pick. So here's my take on this. Getting to 10% body fat isn't linear. It can look so different depending on what your starting point is. You're going to initially have that big drop off and then it's going to taper off. But if you're starting off a little bit leaner, you could also see it go slowly the whole way. But the main thing here is the longer that you take to get there, the more likely that you are to actually keep that result. And if you can sustain a 0.5 to 1% body fat drop per week, that's pretty much bang on with where you need to be. What this looks like in practice is if, for example, you're around 180 pounds and you're wanting to get down to 10%, which is about 160 pounds for your height, on average, your first week will be your biggest drop, your second week will be a little bit less, and then from there, your body will typically average out. So you could lose 3 to 4 pounds in the first week, 2 to 3 pounds in the second week, and then on average for the next 5-6 weeks, you're looking to lose about 2 pounds. From there, it's going to look to drop down from 1 to 1.5 pounds per week. That's how you know you're in a really good spot with the fat loss without sacrificing that size. And the key to making all of this work so much easier, at least for me anyway, has been the mindset shift. Not putting yourself under pressure, not going by your emotions in terms of when you actually feel like you need to lose that weight by, and just taking your time. Don't get me wrong, if you've got Ibiza in 5, 6 or 7 weeks, you're going to have to go a little bit quicker if you want to look good. But if you can preemptively plan ahead, give yourself 4 or 5 months, depending on how much body fat you need to lose, you're going to set yourself up to get a world-class result and actually keep it thereafter without feeling worried every single week or panicking that you need to drop your calories. Because what we've learned from those studies, and hopefully from me too, that's not the best way to get 10% body fat, and hopefully now you can too. If you enjoyed the video and you want to see more content like this, make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below. I upload content like this every single Thursday to help you get in the best shape you can, and if nothing else, you get to know little Connor.